Now we are going to discuss trigonometry functions. So trigonometry function will be having three types of the function where it is in the sine, cos, and tangent. First, we're going to see for sine trigonometry function. So you can see our sine here is a sinusoidal graph. It's an oscillating graph. You can see this is one period. So one period will consist out of 2 pi. So here will be our 2 pi, here will be our pi. So it also oscillating non-stop, so means that for negative pi also we having the graph also. So the domain for the graph will be from negative infinity to infinity. So this graph is like oscillating, keep on repeating. So the shape of the graph, we call it sinusoidal graph. Meanwhile, for the range, so range you can see the minimum y for the graph is -1. The maximum graph it will up to 1. So therefore the range will be from -1 up to 1 included. So sometimes our graph is not only giving here is sine x. So we notice that if we're having a 1 here, the coefficient of the x here will be meaning of the amplitude of the graph. If this coefficient is 1, means it will up to 1 and go down for -1. And then here we also need to alert when here is sine x only means x will be starting from 0. So that's why your graph will be start from 0 and then up to amplitude 1 and then go down to -1, then end with 2 pi. So this is a one period graph. So one period of the graph. So if we having plus or minus a value outside, means definitely the whole graph will be increasing, will be moved up to the k unit, or will be negative means it will be moved down for the k unit. So when we drawing trigonometric graph, we have to know what is your amplitude and then what's your value of x starting on, and then is it your graph moving up or moving down for that value. Now we go for trigonometry for cos function. So cos function, the graph will be start from its amplitude. You can see where x starts with 0, your amplitude is 1. So for cos graph, you will start with its amplitude maximum 1 and then go down to minimum -1 and then go up to 1. So this is one period of the graph. Which means like one pattern of the graph. It will be end at 2 pi here. So it will be ending at 2 pi. So in the middle here is the pi value. So for this graph, it will be oscillating non-stop. So even for negative part, you're also having the graph. So -2 pi. So based on this graph, our domain will be negative infinity to infinity. Meanwhile, for range, we're going to see the y. Maximum value is 1. Minimum value is -1. So for range, it will be -1 up to 1. So same like sine, if your amplitude is start with another value, let's say here is 3 cos, means you will start with the amplitude first, 3, and then go down, -3, and then go up 3. So the coefficient in front of this trigonometry will be the sinusoidal graph for its amplitude. Meanwhile, for this x, you will be looking at what is your starting point. Your starting point will start with x. So one pattern of this oscillating graph will be end at 2 pi. Then we go for tangent. So tangent, it won't have any amplitude. So you can see for tangent, the graph will be shoot up. Or it will go down non-stop. So for tangent, it will no matter you have 1 tangent, 2 tangent, 3 tangent, whatever coefficient up here, it doesn't affect its amplitude because this graph doesn't have any amplitude. So that's why you can see it range will start from -infinity up to positive infinity. But for tangent, we have to take note here, we're having a asymptote. So this is the line we calling asymptote, where the graph doesn't cross over it. The graph will go near to it. You go near to it, you can see this graph, they will shoot up near to it. So even the graph from this bottom, it shoot up. This graph will going near to it. So this is the graph of asymptote. So asymptote will occur at pi over 2, 3 pi over 2, 5 pi over 2, 3 over 2 pi, 5 over 2 pi, and so on. So the domain where the graph doesn't exist will be occur at pi over 2, where the n here is an odd number like 1 over 2 pi, 3 over 2 pi, 4 over 2 pi, or negative 1 over 2 pi, or negative 3 over 2 pi. So that will be our domain. So one pattern of the graph, or we call it period. So one pattern of the graph is only until pi. So here will be our pi. So this is one pattern. Then you can notice that it repeating, right? So this is repeating. So this is one period of the graph. Now here is already repeating for that pattern of the graph. So it will be our tangent.